Man, let me break it down for you. You ever notice how in life, when somebody can't fully control you, they don't come at you head on. They start playing little games. They play good cop, bad cop. They smile in your face, shake your hand, act like they love you, then turn around and threaten you in the same breath. That's what's going on right now with India and America. It's not just politics, it's human nature. When someone can't quite handle you, they try to keep you off balance. That's exactly what's happening on the global stage. And if you look closely, you can see the whole play unfolding right before your eyes. Now let me tell you something. India ain't no small player anymore. This ain't the India of 20 years ago where you could push them into a corner, hand them a list of instructions, and they'd quietly nod along. Oh no, this is a whole new ball game. India has grown, India has risen, and most importantly, India knows its worth. And when somebody knows their worth, you can't just come in and bully them, you gotta strategize. That's why America is working this good cop, bad cop act. They don't want to lose India, but they also don't want India to get too strong without being reminded of who's in charge. Except the problem is, they ain't in charge no more. Not like they used to be. Think about it. On one hand, America's talking about partnerships, alliances, friendships. They'll fly over, shake hands, talk about democracy, talk about freedom, talk about how they stand with India. That's the good cop. That's the charm. That's the smile. But on the other hand, you'll see them drop warnings about sanctions, whisper threats about trade restrictions, or start poking at India's decisions. That's the bad cop. That's the one sitting across the table saying, we like you, but don't you forget, we can make things real hard for you if we want to. Now here's the kicker. India sees straight through it. This ain't India's first time at the rodeo. They've been colonized, they've been manipulated, they've been underestimated. And you think after hundreds of years of that, they can't smell a game when it's being played. Please, India looks America straight in the eye and says, we'll listen, we'll talk, but we ain't bending. That's the part that scares the life out of Washington, because power is about leverage. And the minute you run into somebody who don't play by your leverage anymore, you don't know what to do. You see, America wants India close, because right now, the world is shifting. China's on one side, Russia's on the other, and America knows they can't handle everything by themselves. They need strong partners. They need people on their side, and nobody's more important than India. India's population, India's economy, India's military, it's all climbing fast. And here's the thing, India doesn't need to beg anybody anymore. India can walk into a room and sit at the big table without asking permission. That's power. That's respect. And America knows if they lose that, they lose a whole lot more than just a friendship. They lose their position in the new world order. Now, you got to understand why this good cop, bad cop act comes into play. It's about control. They want India to feel like they got no choice but to lean on America. So they dangle the carrot. We'll help you with defense technology. We'll invest in your markets. We'll call you our strategic partner. That's the sweet talk. But then here comes a stick. Don't buy oil from Russia. Don't get too close to Iran. Don't make too much noise about global rules unless we're writing them. That's the threat. Good cop, bad cop. But here's the problem. India don't scare it easy. India has been through wars, famines, betrayals, and still came out standing. You can't play psychological games on a nation that's been through centuries of trials. America keeps trying, but India just keeps playing the long game. That's what makes this so fascinating. Because for the first time, America is realizing that the very country they used to see as developing has now developed a backbone so strong It don't bend under pressure. Let me give you an example. When the war in Ukraine broke out, the West was screaming at everybody, sanction Russia, cut ties, pick a side, and most countries lined up. But what did India do? India said, we're going to do what's best for our people. We're going to buy oil where it's cheapest. We're going to make sure our economy stays stable. We're going to talk to everybody, not just the ones telling us what to do. And America hated that. But could they punish India the way they punished others? No, because they knew if they hit India with sanctions, they'd push India right into the arms of Russia and China. So what did they do? Good cop, bad cop. One day they're praising India's leadership. Next day they're criticizing India's stance. Confusion, pressure, games. This ain't just politics, it's survival instincts. America is used to being the top dog, but the top dog don't stay on top forever. There comes a time when the pack starts shifting, and right now, India is that wolf that's moving up. And you better believe when a wolf starts moving up in the pack, the alpha doesn't just hand over the crown. They fight, they test, they push back. That's exactly what's happening here. What's wild about this is India don't even have to scream or shout to make its point. They don't need to play loud. They just show it through action. Space programs, missile tests, growing GDP, diplomatic moves, all of it speaks louder than words. And America sees that. That's why they're nervous. Because they know once respect shifts, it don't shift back easy. And let me tell you something, the American people don't even fully see this. But Washington knows, the strategists know, the think tanks know. They know India ain't playing in the minor leagues anymore. They're in the majors swinging hard, and everybody's watching to see if they hit a home run. That's why the games are being played so carefully. Here's where the irony kicks in. The very country America is trying to manage is the same country they desperately need. Need for trade, need for technology, need for military balance, need for democracy's credibility. Without India, the West looks weak. With India, the West looks stronger. So what do you do when you need somebody, but you can't fully control them? You play good cop, bad cop. You give them just enough sugar to keep them close and just enough fire to remind them not to get too bold. But here's the twist. India is not just playing defense, it's playing offense too. They'll take the technology, take the investment, take the recognition, but they won't compromise their independence. They'll nod at the good cop, shrug at the bad cop, and keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, they're not trying to be America's sidekick. They're trying to be their own force. And that's what's shaking the ground under Washington's feet. See, for decades, America could walk into a room and dictate the terms. Now they walk into a room with India, and it's a negotiation. That's the difference. That's why it feels like war, not bullets and bombs, but a war of influence, a war of respect, a war of positioning. And let me tell you, India's winning because they're not desperate. Desperation is the enemy of power. When you're desperate, you compromise. When you're desperate, you beg. But when you know your value, you just sit back and let the world come to you. That's India right now. Now let's talk truth. America ain't playing this game because they hate India. They're playing it because they can't afford to lose India. They need India more than India needs them. And when somebody needs you, they don't always admit it straight up. They mask it with games. But the mask is slipping. Because the more America tries to play both sides, the more India shows it ain't fooled. And the more India refuses to bend, the more the balance of power tilts. That's why this whole thing feels like a standoff. You got one side trying to maintain control with games, and the other side rising so strong it don't need to play along. And the rest of the world is just watching, taking notes, figuring out which way the wind is blowing. You ever notice when somebody realizes they're not the only one at the table anymore, they start acting extra nice one day and extra tough the next? That's what's happening here. Because the truth is simple. This ain't about friendship. This ain't about democracy. This ain't about alliances. It's about power. Who has it, who's losing it, and who's gaining it? And right now, America knows the future is tilting east. The center of gravity is shifting. And if they don't hold India close, they risk standing alone. That's why they play good cop, bad cop, because they can't let go, but they can't fully hold on either. And the lesson in all this, respect. The future isn't about who bullies who dominates who. It's about who earns respect. And India's respect is the one thing America can't afford to lose. The ultimate struggle isn't about control. It's about respect. And India won't settle for less. Let me tell you why that's such a big deal. You see, for most of history, control was the game. The powerful didn't care if you respected them. They just wanted you to obey. They wanted you to bow down, follow orders, and stay in line. Respect wasn't even in the conversation. Because when somebody got you by the throat, they didn't need your respect. They just needed your submission. But times change. People change. Nations change. And right now, India is in that moment where it's saying to the world, we ain't living for control anymore. We're living for respect. And if you don't give it to us, you'll be the one falling behind. That's the switch America is struggling to understand. See, America has been used to running the show for decades. They used to walk into a room and everybody looked at them like the teacher who had all the answers. But now they walk into that same room and India is sitting there, not as the student anymore, but as an equal at the table. And America doesn't quite know how to handle that. They still want to run the good cop, bad cop act, smile at India one day, scold them the next, because that's a control game. But India is not even playing that game anymore. They're saying, talk nice, talk tough, it don't matter. What matters is respect. Do you treat us as an equal? Do you acknowledge we got our own voice, our own choices, our own future? Because if not, we ain't listening. Now let me break it down with a simple example. Imagine you're at work, right? And your boss has always treated you like the new hire, telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. But over time, you put in the work. You gain experience. You start knowing the business just as well as the boss, maybe even better in some areas. And then one day, you realize you don't need that boss controlling every move anymore. What you need is respect. You want them to look at you like a partner, not an underling. And if they don't, if they keep trying to micromanage you, then you start planning your own path. That's where India is right now. They've been the student, they've been underestimated, but now they've grown into a master of their own. And America is still trying to boss them around instead of treating them like an equal colleague. That's where the friction comes from. And here's the thing about respect. It can't be faked. You can fake control. You can threaten someone, you can bribe them, you can twist their arm, and they'll follow along even if they don't like you. But respect, that has to be earned. It comes from consistency, from authenticity, from recognizing someone's value without conditions. America's problem is they want India's partnership, but they still want it on their terms. And India's saying loud and clear, respect ain't conditional. Either you give it fully or we'll find somebody else who will. Now let's take this global. The whole world is watching this dynamic between America and India. Countries in Asia, Africa, even in Europe, they're all looking at how India handles itself. Because if India can force America to treat it with respect instead of control, that sets a precedent for everybody else. Suddenly smaller nations realize, hold on, maybe we don't have to take orders either. maybe we can demand respect too. That's why this isn't just about India and America. It's about the entire balance of power in the world. Respect is contagious. Once one nation proves it can't be bought or bullied, others start walking the same path. And that's what scares the old powers the most. Respect is also about independence. Control means someone else decides for you. Respect means they accept your decisions, even when they don't like them. And let's be real, India has been making a whole lot of decisions lately that America doesn't like. Buying oil from Russia. America hated that. Refusing to fall into line on Ukraine, they hated that too. Building ties with countries that aren't in Washington's approved circle. That made them nervous. But here's the kicker. India did it anyway. Because respect means I'm going to do what's best for me, and you will acknowledge that right. And slowly, America is realizing they don't have the leverage to stop it. Let me tell you why this shift is powerful. Respect changes the whole conversation. If the relationship is built on control, then one side is always dominating and the other is always submitting. But if the relationship is built on respect, then both sides negotiate, they compromise, they give and take. And that's what India wants. They're not saying, we don't want America. They're saying, we want America to treat us like an equal partner, not like a project. And once that dynamic changes, it's a whole new ball game. Respect also changes how people see themselves. You ever notice how someone who's been ignored their whole life suddenly carries themselves differently once they finally get acknowledged? They walk taller, they speak louder. They don't second guess themselves anymore. That's India right now. For decades, they were the quiet player in the background. But now when they talk, the whole world listens. Because respect isn't just something you demand. It's something you radiate. And India's confidence is showing. That's why no matter how many times America tries to play the bad cop role, India doesn't flinch. Because you can't intimidate somebody who knows they've earned their place. And here's where it gets even deeper. Respect is tied to dignity. And dignity is non-negotiable. When a nation feels its dignity is being undermined, that's when things explode. That's when patience runs out. India's been patient, but it's also been clear. Don't mess with our dignity. Don't question our choices like we're kids at the table. Don't lecture us like we don't understand the stakes. Because dignity is the line India won't let anyone cross. And when America plays good cop, bad cop, sometimes they cross that line without realizing it. They think it's strategy, but India takes it as an insult. That's the miscalculation. Respect also works both ways. India knows it has to give respect to get it. That's why, even when they disagree with America, they don't come out swinging wild. They stay calm, they stay professional, they play the long game. That's how respect is built, through consistency, not emotion. And honestly, that's what makes America even more uneasy, because they're used to nations reacting emotionally when pressured. But India just smiles, keeps talking, keeps negotiating, and still does what it planned to do. That patience is a weapon, and it's earning India respect worldwide. Now let's talk about why respect is more valuable than control in the modern world. Control is temporary. The moment someone stronger shows up, control slips away. But respect lasts, it sticks. It doesn't matter who's richer, who's stronger, who's louder. If people respect you, they stand with you, they defend you, they trust you. And in a world that's becoming more multipolar, respect is the real currency. That's why India won't settle for less, because they know if they accept control now, they'll be stuck in that position forever. But if they demand respect now, they set the tone for generations. Respect also builds resilience. When people respect you, they give you room to grow, even when you make mistakes. That's why India can afford to experiment with its policies, its alliances, its strategies, because the world sees them as a responsible power, not a reckless one. And that reputation, that's worth more than any aid package, any loan, or any deal. Because once you've got that, nobody can take it away from you. And finally, let me say this. Respect is the one thing you can't buy. You can buy influence, you can buy resources, you can buy time. But respect, that comes only from proving yourself again and again. India has done that. Through wars, through economic growth, through diplomacy, through resilience. And now that they've earned it, they're not about to give it up for anyone. That's why the ultimate struggle isn't about control anymore. It's about respect. And India has made it clear it won't settle for less.